The shadowed arrival moonlight bathed the crystal palace in a gentle blue glow as Princess Lyra Silvermoon stood on her balcony overlooking the vast elven kingdom of Eldoria. Her long silver hair danced in the evening breeze, while her emerald eyes reflected the twin moons hanging low in the night sky. At her feet curled Vex, her obsidian-scaled dragon companion, who had been with her since he was merely an egg. The small dragon huffed softly, sending wisps of smoke curling around her ankles in a protective gesture. 3 months had passed since Lyra had disappeared from the kingdom without explanation. 3 months of rumors and speculation among the royal court. 3 months that had changed everything. Now she had returned, but not alone. Lyra stroked the smooth scales on Vex's head and smiled as the dragon purred in response. The strange metallic band encircling her wrist gleamed in the moonlight, a piece of technology unlike anything seen in Eldoria before. She twisted it, gently watching as tiny lights flickered across its surface, responding to her touch. Human technology was so different from elven magic, yet in its own way just as wondrous. Behind her, the crystal doors to her chambers opened. Queen Ariadne, ruler of the elven dominion for 8 centuries, glided onto the balcony. Her face remained impassive, but her eyes betrayed her concern. Mother Lyra acknowledged without turning. Her gaze remained fixed on the distant whispering forest where he had gone 3 days ago. The queen moved beside her daughter, her flowing silver robes catching the moonlight. The royal court whispers grow louder with each passing day. Your unexplained absence and sudden return with a human has created quite the stir. Lyra smiled, a secret playing at the corners of her lips. They fear what they do not understand, as they have reason to. Ariadne countered. The void. Armada approaches our star system. The scouts report they have already consumed 3 neighboring worlds. The Council of Elders meets even now to prepare our defenses. And here my daughter and heir to the throne seems unconcerned, preoccupied with a human who has vanished into the forest. He will return. Lyra said, her voice calm and certain. He simply needs to gather certain materials for his work. Ariadne frowned. What work could possibly be more important than attending council meetings preparing our people for war? A human knows nothing of our ways, our magic, our defenses. Lyra finally turned to face her mother. Her expression remained serene despite the queen's growing agitation. That is precisely why he can help us, Mother. We have fought the void before with our magic and lost ground each time he sees things differently. His world, his people, they approach problems unlike we do. The queen scoffed. Humans destroyed their own world with their technology and wars. Now they seek other worlds to conquer. Vex growled low in his throat as if understanding the queen's disparaging words. Lyra placed a calming hand on his head. Not all humans, Mother. Just as not all elves are wise despite our long lives, he is different. A soft knock interrupted them. Lady Catherine, the royal seer, entered the balcony, her expression troubled. My queen, the council awaits your presence. The Void Scouts have been detected entering the outer atmosphere. Ariadne nodded, then fixed her daughter with a stern gaze. Join us, Lyra. The kingdom needs its princess now, more than ever. Lyra shook her head. I must wait for his return. What he brings from the forest is more valuable than my presence at another council meeting where elders talk in circles. The queen stiffened. He has enchanted you somehow. These humans with their strange ways have twisted your mind, lady. Catherine stepped forward hesitantly. They say he walks through battlefields untouched. Her voice trembled slightly. They say his kind destroyed their own world before searching for others to conquer. The human cannot be trusted. Princess. Lyra laughed, then a sound like silver bells in the night. You speak of humans as if they are all the same, Catherine. You who preach about the uniqueness of each elven soul. How disappointed your teachers would be. Catherine flushed red but held her ground. The signs are clear. Princess, the stars themselves warn of danger from otherworlders. Vex suddenly lifted his head, alert and watching the forest edge. Lyra smiled. He returns, she whispered. In the distance, a figure emerged from the tree line. Tall for an elf but clearly human. He moved with purpose toward the palace gates. The guards visibly tensed as he approached but made no move to stop him. The queen's orders to allow the princess. Her strange companion still stood. Though many disagreed, see mother, Lyra said, her fingers absently tracing the strange metallic band on her wrist. He returns as promised. Ariadne watched the approaching figure with undisguised suspicion. The council will expect answers, Lyra. This human must explain himself and his purpose here. I will bring him to the council chamber when he is ready, Lyra promised. But first we have matters to discuss. Her eyes gleamed with excitement, matters that may change the course of this war. The queen studied her daughter closely. Something had changed in Lyra during her time away. The carefree princess who had disappeared 3 months ago was gone. In her place stood someone more confident, more focused, more certain. Ariadne was not sure if this change pleased or troubled her. "What has he done to you?" she whispered. Lyra smiled once more. "Nothing I did not wish, mother. I have learned much during my time on Earth. Their science, their perspective, their adaptability. Humans live such brief lives yet accomplish so much. They see possibilities." "Where we see only tradition," Catherine gasped. "The princess went to Earth, the human homeworld. You crossed between realms." The metallic band on Lyra's wrist suddenly pulsed with blue light. She held it up, examining it with a fond expression. "He calls it a quantum transponder. It allows communication across vast distances. He gave it to me so we would never truly be apart." The queen stepped back, her eyes wide with shock. "You allowed a human to place their technology upon you. Do you not remember? The ancient warnings, elven blood and human metal bring only sorrow." Lyra shook her head. "Such superstitions, mother, born from fear, not wisdom. The humans have changed since the ancient days of conflict. They have grown learned, built wonders we cannot. Imagine they have flaws, yes, but also strengths. We lack." Vex suddenly leapt to his feet, his scales rippling with excitement. A moment later, the crystal doors burst open, and a palace guard rushed in, breathless. "My queen," he gasped. The human approaches. "The palace, he carries strange devices. The captain requests instructions." Before Ariadne could respond, Lyra moved past her mother toward the door, Vex at her heels. "Tell them to let him pass," she commanded with unexpected authority. "Tell them the princess commands it." Ariadne watched her daughter leave the balcony, her dragon following close behind. The queen turned to Catherine, her expression grave. "Follow her," she instructed. "Observe this human. Learn what hold he has over my daughter." Catherine bowed and hurried after the princess, leaving Ariadne alone on the balcony. The queen turned her gaze toward the distant forest and the stars beyond, where somewhere the void armada approached, bringing death to all they encountered. "Who is this human?" she wondered. "That my daughter places such faith in him when destruction looms." In the palace below, Lyra hurried through the crystal corridors, servants and nobles alike pressing themselves against the walls as she passed. No longer did they see just the princess they had known all her life. Now they saw something different in her stride, in the gleam of her eyes and the strange technology she wore so proudly on her wrist. Vex trotted beside her, occasionally spreading his small wings for balance. The dragon had grown during their absence, now the size of a large hound. Where once he had been carried in Lyra's arms, now he moved with growing strength, his scales harder, his fire hotter. He too had been changed by their journey. At the palace entrance, Lyra paused, watching as the gate swung open to admit the human. He walked calmly despite the dozens of elven guards watching his every move. He carried a pack over one shoulder, and what appeared to be a metal case in his hand. His eyes found hers. Immediately across the distance, and even from afar, Lyra could see his smile. The princess felt her heart quicken. She touched the band on her wrist, feeling it warm in response. As if sensing her thoughts, the human raised his own wrist, where an identical band glowed with the same blue light. The court whispered, the guards stared. The queen watched from the balcony above, but Lyra saw only him. Her human, the one who had shown her a different way to see the universe. The one who might save them all if Only her people would listen. The human stopped before her, bowing slightly. "Princess," he greeted, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent courtyard, "I have what we need." Lyra nodded, her smile matching his. "The War Council meets now," she told him. "They await answers." The human looked up at the palace, his eyes finding the queen watching from above. "Then we should not keep them waiting," he replied. His gaze returned to Lyra. "I hope your mother is ready for what we bring." Lyra glanced down at Vex, who stared up at the human with unwavering loyalty. She thought of the void approaching, of the ancient magic that had failed before, of the strange and wonderful technology she had witnessed on Earth, and the possibilities that lay between the two. "World she is not," she admitted. "But she will have to be, we all will. The old ways alone cannot save us." The human nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Together," then he said, offering his free hand. Lyra took it without hesitation. Together, she agreed. Whispers of war. The Grand Council chamber of the Crystal Palace glowed with ancient magic as elven elders gathered around the massive star map hovering above the center table. Blue and silver lights represented elven worlds, while menacing red dots marked the advancing void. Armada Queen. Ariadne stood at the head of the table, her face a mask of calm, while panic stirred in her heart. Princess Lyra entered the chamber with the human at her side, and Vex padding silently behind them. Conversations ceased as all eyes turned toward the strange trio. The human carried his metal case with careful precision, his face betraying no emotion under the scrutiny of the elven nobility. Commander Olivia Stormheart, Chief of the Royal Guard, stepped forward, her hand resting on her sword hilt. "My queen," she said, addressing Ariadne while keeping her eyes fixed on the human. "He should not be here. These discussions are for elven ears." Only Lyra moved closer to the human. "Our plans concern him as much as any." "Elf," she replied. "He brings knowledge that may save us all." An elder with a long silver beard scoffed. "What could a human know of the void or of our defenses? They barely understand the concept of magic. Their lives are too brief to comprehend the scope of this war." The human remained silent, his eyes studying the star map with intense focus. Lyra noticed how he analyzed the movement patterns of the red dots, tracking their progress through the star systems. Queen Ariadne raised her hand, silencing the murmurs. "My daughter believes this human offers us hope. I have granted him audience." "Let him speak." All eyes turned to the human as he stepped forward, placing his metal case on the edge of the table. "Princess Lyra has shared your defensive strategies with me," he said, his voice steady and confident. "They are impressive, but they will fail." Outrage erupted among the elders. "Commander." Olivia drew her sword halfway from its sheath. The human continued undeterred. "The void consume magic," he explained. "That is why they target magical civilizations like yours. They absorb your power, grow stronger with each world they take. Your magical barriers will not just fail, they will make them stronger." Silence fell over the chamber. The queen stepped closer to the star map. "How do you know this?" she demanded. The human met her gaze. "I have studied them. We have encountered them before, but they did not recognize us as a threat. Humans lack the concentrated magic that attracts them. Our world was passed over as insignificant." An elder leaned forward, his ancient eyes narrowed. "If what you say is true, then we are doomed. Our civilization, our very existence is built on magic." "Not doomed," the human corrected, different. He opened his case, revealing strange devices of metal and light. "Technology and magic are different forces. The void understands one but not the other, at least not how they can work together." Before anyone could respond, alarms sounded throughout the palace. A guard burst into the chamber, breathless with fear. "Your Majesty, Void Scouts have breached the atmosphere." They approached the city. Panic erupted in the council chamber. Elders shouted over one another, some calling for immediate evacuation, others for strengthening the magical barriers. The human caught Lyra's eye and shook his head slightly, confirming what he had just explained. Commander Olivia took charge. "My warriors stand ready. Your Majesty," she declared, "we will defend the palace, Queen." Ariadne raised her hands, commanding silence. "Everyone to your posts," she ordered. "The ancient defenses must be activated. Commander Olivia, prepare your forces. Lord Nathaniel, evacuate the lower city. Lady Catherine, consult the seers for guidance." As the council members rushed to obey, Ariadne turned to her daughter and the human. "What do you propose?" she asked, her voice low. "My daughter seems to believe you hold answers where we have none." The human closed his case and secured it. "I need access to your ancient temple," he said, "the one beneath the palace where the first magic was channeled." The queen stepped back, shock evident on her face. "That place is forbidden. None but the royal blood may enter." Mother Lyra interrupted. "I have already taken him there." Ariadne stared at her daughter, betrayal flashing in her eyes. "You broke our most sacred law for this human," Vex growled low, sensing the tension. The dragon had grown even larger, now the size of a pony, his scales rippling with reflected light. The human placed a calming hand on the creature's head, earning a surprised look from the queen. "Time is short." The human said, "We must go now. The temple contains what we need to merge my technology with your magic. Only then will we have a chance." Another alarm sounded, this one higher and more urgent. Commander Olivia rushed back into the chamber. "My queen, the void ships have deployed landing vessels. The first wave approaches from the north." The palace trembled as distant explosions echoed across the city. Screams could be heard even through the thick crystal walls of the palace. Through the tall windows they could see dark shapes descending from the sky, like malevolent stars. Queen Ariadne looked from the windows to her daughter, to the human, indecision clear on her face for the first time. In centuries the human stepped closer. "Princess Lyra trusts me," he said softly. "She has seen what I can do, what our worlds can accomplish together. Give me this chance." The queen studied him, her ancient eyes seeing more than most. "Your name," she demanded. Suddenly, "What are you called?" "Daniel," he answered. "My name is Daniel." Ariadne nodded once. "Take them to the temple," she commanded Commander Olivia. "Protect them with your life, Commander." Olivia bowed, though reluctance showed in every line of her body. "As you command, my queen." As they hurried from the chamber, Ariadne called after them, "Lyra, my daughter." The princess turned back. The queen stood proud and regal despite the chaos erupting around them. "If you are wrong," she said, "if this human betrays us, all of Eldoria falls." Lyra met her mother's gaze without wavering. "He won't," she promised. The palace hallways were filled with rushing servants and guards as they made their way to the hidden entrance of the ancient temple. Vex trotted ahead, his senses alert for danger. Commander Olivia followed with 4 elite guards, their magical weapons glowing with power. Outside, the void ships drew closer. Their dark hulls absorbed the light around them, creating unnatural shadows even in daylight. Elven, defensive. Spells flared against the invaders, but just as Daniel had predicted, the ships seemed to consume the magic, growing stronger with each attack. The temple entrance lay behind the throne room, hidden beneath an ornate mosaic of the first elven queen. A secret panel slid open as Lyra pressed her palm to a specific tile, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Vex leapt down immediately, his scales beginning to glow, providing light in the ancient passage. Daniel went next, followed by Lyra. Commander Olivia hesitated at the entrance. Never in 800 years has an outsider entered the sacred temple, she said, her voice tight with disapproval. Lyra looked back at her. The world changes, Olivia. We must change with it or perish. The commander frowned but followed them down the stairs. The temple below was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness. Massive crystal pillars rose from the floor, each pulsing with magical energy that had flowed uninterrupted for millennia. In the center stood a circular platform covered in runes so ancient even the queen could not read them. Daniel moved to the center platform, setting down his case with reverent care. Vex circled the area, his dragon senses detecting something the others could not. The human opened the case, revealing devices that hummed with energy. "What are those?" Commander Olivia asked, suspicion heavy in her voice. "Quantum interfaces," Daniel explained, working quickly. They will allow me to create a bridge between your magic and my technology." He looked up at Lyra Princess. "I need your assistance." Lyra joined him on the platform, placing her hands on the ancient runes. As she did, they began to glow brighter, responding to her royal blood. Vex positioned himself at the edge of the platform, his body growing tense. Above them, the sounds of battle intensified. The temple trembled as explosions rocked the city. Daniel worked faster, connecting his devices to specific points on the platform. Each connection caused the runes to shift color from blue to a purple hue. Commander Olivia paced nervously. "Whatever you're doing, human, do it quickly. The void forces will breach the palace soon." Daniel nodded without looking up. "Just a few more connections," he murmured. "Princess, the band on your wrist, place it here." Lyra removed the metallic band that matched Daniel's and placed it at the center of the platform where he indicated. The moment it touched the runes, a surge of energy pulsed through the temple. The crystal pillars flared with brilliant light. Vex roared, his entire body suddenly illuminated from within. The dragon arched his back as if in pain, but Lyra shook her head at Commander Olivia's move to intervene. "Wait," she commanded. "He accepts it willingly." The dragon grew before their eyes, his form shifting as energy from both the ancient magic and Daniel's technology flowed through him. His scales hardened, taking on a metallic sheen. His eyes glowed with internal fire. "What is happening to him?" Commander Olivia whispered in awe. "Evolution." Daniel answered. "The perfect merger of magic and technology. Vex has chosen to be the first." The temple floor shook violently as a massive explosion rocked the palace above. A guard rushed down the stairs. "My commander, the palace defenses have fallen. The void forces breach the upper levels." Lyra looked at Daniel. "Is it ready?" she asked. "Almost," he replied, making final adjustments. "Tell your mother to release the royal dragons. We need them here." Commander Olivia shook her head. "The royal dragons are our last line of defense. The queen would never." Lyra cut her off. "My mother will understand when she sees Vex. Go now, tell her." The impossible alliance, Queen Ariadne, rushed down the ancient spiral staircase, her silver robes flowing behind her like liquid moonlight. Commander Olivia led the way while 12 royal guards struggled to control the royal dragons. The massive creatures hissed and fought against their restraints, sensing danger above. Their scales glittered with all the colors of elven magic passed down through countless generations. The sight that greeted the queen at the bottom of the stairs stopped her in her tracks. Princess Lyra stood on the central platform beside her human companion. But it was Vex that drew every eye. The once small dragon had transformed. His obsidian scales now shimmered with metallic patterns that seemed to shift and flow like living circuitry. His eyes glowed with internal light, and parts of his body had reshaped, becoming something neither fully organic nor mechanical. "What have you done to him?" Ariadne whispered, horror and fascination warring in her voice. Daniel looked up from his work. "Nothing he did not choose," he answered. "The merger is voluntary. Vex understands what is at stake." The transformed dragon turned toward the royal dragons, who had gone suddenly still. Their ancient eyes fixed on Vex with something like recognition. Vex approached them slowly, his movements fluid despite his transformation. He touched his snout to each dragon in turn. A silent communication seemed to pass between them. Lyra stepped off the platform, joining her mother. "Your Majesty," she said formally, "the royal dragons must make their choice. The void forces breach the upper levels of the palace. Even now they consume our magical defenses, growing stronger with each spell cast against them." Above them, a tremendous crash shook. The entire temple, dust and small fragments of crystal rained down from the ceiling. The royal guards looked up in alarm, their hands tightening on their weapons. Daniel continued working as he spoke. "The void has never encountered a force like this." Before he explained, gesturing toward Vex, "Technology alone they understand and can counter. Magic alone they consume and grow stronger. But the two merged create something new, something they cannot easily adapt to." One of the royal dragons, the largest, with scales like emeralds, stepped forward, breaking away from its handler. It approached Vex, then lowered its massive head in what appeared to be a bow. Vex responded with a similar gesture. It's choosing, Daniel said, watching intently. They recognize. The necessity Queen Ariadne shook her head. These dragons have protected our realm for millennia. They are sacred. The magic within them is our heritage. Lyra took her mother's hand gently, and they will continue to protect us. Mother, but in a new way. The old ways are failing us. The void grows stronger with each world it consumes. Each magical civilization that falls makes them harder to defeat. We must evolve or join the others. Another crash louder than before sent cracks spreading through one of the massive crystal pillars. Commander Olivia rushed to the Queen's side. We must decide now, Your Majesty, she urged. The palace will not stand much longer. The Queen looked from her daughter to Daniel, to the transformed Vex, and finally to the royal dragons waiting for her command. In 8 centuries of rule, she had never faced such a choice. To allow these sacred creatures to be changed by human technology went against everything she had been taught, everything she had believed. Daniel, sensing her struggle, spoke softly. Queen Ariadne, I understand your hesitation, but know this. I love your daughter. She showed me the beauty of your world, your people, your magic. In return, I offer the only hope I know. The merger is temporary. If we succeed, the dragons can be restored. Ariadne studied the human, her ancient eyes seeing beyond the surface. What happens if we fail? She asked. Then we fall like the others. Daniel admitted his honesty, surprising the Queen. But we fall, having tried everything possible. Having created something new, even if only for a moment. A massive explosion rocked the temple, sending everyone staggering. Parts of the ceiling began to collapse. A royal guard rushed forward. Your Majesty, they have breached the throne room. They will find the temple entrance soon. Lyra stood tall beside Daniel, her hand finding his. The choice is yours, Mother, she said, but we must have it. Now Queen Ariadne straightened her back, the weight of 8 centuries of rule visible in her posture. The kingdom falls around us, she said quietly. Our magic fails. The ancient ways have no answer. She looked at the royal dragons, their eyes intelligent and waiting. Then at Vex, whose transformation seemed to have stabilized into something beautiful. In its strangeness, finally she turned to Daniel. The human met her gaze steadily. Very well. Queen Ariadne declared, her voice regaining its strength. Release the dragons. Let them choose. The handlers immediately removed the restraints from the royal dragons. The magnificent creatures moved forward as one approaching the central platform where Daniel's devices hummed with energy. Vex greeted each one, touching his snout to theirs. In turn, Daniel worked quickly, placing small devices on specific points around the platform. Princess, he called Lyra, hurried to his side. They need a conduit. He explained, someone of royal blood to guide the transformation. Someone with a connection to both worlds. Lyra nodded, understanding immediately. She stepped onto the platform. The royal dragons formed a circle around her. Vex joined them, completing the circuit. Daniel handed Lyra a device similar to the wristband she had worn before. This will allow you to guide them, he said softly. Be their anchor. The Queen watched with growing concern. What are you doing, Lyra? She demanded, creating a neural network. Daniel answered for her. The princess will connect with the dragons' minds, guiding the transformation, ensuring they retain their identities. Their magic will flow through her into the technology and back again. Creating balance, another explosion much closer this time sent everyone ducking for cover. Commander, Olivia shouted orders to her guards, forming a defensive perimeter around the temple entrance. We have minutes at most, she warned. Lyra placed the device against her temple where it adhered to her skin. She gasped as the connection formed, her eyes widening. The dragons responded immediately, their bodies beginning to glow from within, just as Vex had done earlier. Mother, she called, her voice strained but determined. Send Commander Olivia and her forces to the East Wing. Draw the void forces away from the temple. We need more time, Queen Ariadne hesitated, then nodded to Commander Olivia. Go, she commanded. Protect our people. Buy us what time you can. Olivia bowed deeply, her loyalty unwavering. Despite her misgivings about the human, she trusted her queen. As you command, she said. Then she turned to her guards, weapons ready. We fight for Eldoria, she declared. As they rushed up the stairs to confront the invaders, Daniel continued making adjustments to his devices. The dragon's transformation accelerated their scales, taking on the same metallic sheen as Vex. Their wings expanded, becoming stronger, more flexible, claws elongated and sharpened. The air around them hummed with the strange new energy. Neither fully magical nor technological, Lyra stood at the center. Her eyes closed in concentration. The neural link allowed her to feel each dragon's mind, their ancient wisdom, their fierce loyalty, their growing understanding of what they were becoming. She guided them through the pain of transformation, soothing their fears. The royal blood in her veins sang with power. Queen Ariadne watched, in amazement, as her daughter's hair began to float around her head as if underwater streams of light flowed between Lyra and each dragon, creating a web of energy that filled the temple. The transformed Vex suddenly roared a sound unlike anything the elves had heard before, part dragon cry, part mechanical resonance. The other dragons joined, creating a harmony that shook the very foundations of the temple. Daniel smiled in satisfaction. It's working, he said. The quantum interface is stabilizing. The merger is holding. Another explosion, this one directly above the temple entrance, sent larger chunks of ceiling crashing down. Daniel rushed to protect the queen, pulling her to safety beneath one of the crystal pillars. His action surprised Ariadne, who stared at the human with new eyes. Why do you risk yourself for us, human? She asked as dust settled around them. Why fight for a world not your own? Daniel helped the queen to her feet. His eyes found Lyra standing tall amidst the transforming dragons. Because your daughter showed me that worlds apart doesn't mean worlds divided, he answered. Because together we are stronger than alone. The first void soldier appeared at the temple entrance, a twisted form that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its body rippled like oil on water as it sensed the powerful magic within the temple. But before it could advance, Vex, fully transformed, launched himself at the creature. His new form moved with impossible speed. The void soldier reached out to absorb the dragon's energy as it had done with elven magic countless times before. But when it touched Vex, it recoiled. The merged magic and technology burned through its form. The transformed dragon roared in triumph. The other royal dragons, their transformations complete, joined him. Their new forms, magnificent and terrible, rose up against the invaders. Queen Ariadne watched in awe as the impossible alliance of elven magic and human technology turned the tide of battle. Who is he, she whispered as Daniel rushed back to help Lyra step down from the platform. The princess smiled, exhausted but triumphant. The human I married, mother, she said. The one who taught us how to evolve. Dragons of fire and steel dawn broke over the besieged city of Lumina, casting golden light across buildings damaged by the night of battle. Smoke rose from the eastern districts where void forces had first landed. Elven defenders fought valiantly, but their magical weapons proved increasingly ineffective against the invaders, who seemed to grow stronger with each spell cast against them. In the sky above the Crystal Palace, 13 dragons soared. Their transformed bodies gleamed in the morning light. No longer purely creatures of flesh and magic, they had become something new. Their scales, interwoven with adaptive technology, reflected the sunrise like living metal. Their wings cut through the air with impossible precision. As they flew, energy fields rippled around them, deflecting void weapons. From the highest tower of the palace, Princess Lyra coordinated their movements. The neural link connecting her to the dragons allowed her to see through their eyes, direct their attacks, and analyze the battle in ways no elven commander ever could. Daniel worked beside her, his hands moving across improvised control panels built from a mixture of elven crystals and his own technology. Queen Ariadne watched them work together in perfect synchronization. Her ancient eyes noted how her daughter had changed in the months she had known this human. Lyra had always been intelligent and brave, but now she displayed skills no elven princess had ever possessed. Military strategy blended, with scientific understanding and a new kind of practical magic that merged with technology rather than opposing it. The largest of the void ships hovered over the northern quarter of the city. Its dark hull absorbed sunlight, creating an unnatural shadow below. Smaller vessels swarmed around it like insects protecting their queen. "Target the flagship," Lyra commanded through her neural link. The transformed dragons responded immediately, banking as one toward the massive ship. The lead dragon, Vex, dove first, his newly weaponized breath releasing not just fire, but a stream of energy that cut through the void ship's defenses. The flagship responded with pulses of dark energy designed to absorb magic, but the merged dragons were no longer purely magical. The technology integrated into their forms redirected the energy, channeling it back as weapons. More void ships appeared on the horizon. Daniel noticed them first. His hands flew across the control panel. "The reinforcements are earlier than expected," he said. "We need to accelerate our timeline." Commander Olivia entered the tower room, her armor scorched and dented from battle, but her spirit unbroken. "The ground forces report success. My queen," she announced. "The transformed dragons have turned the tide. Our warriors advance behind them, reclaiming the eastern quarter queen." Ariadne nodded, but her expression remained grave. "The battle is far from over, Commander," she said. "Look to the horizon." More void ships darkened the sky, their hulls blotting out the morning sun like an advancing storm. Olivia paled at the sight. "So many," she whispered. "How can there be so many?" Daniel studied the readings on his panel. "They come from other systems," he explained. "Other conquered worlds. The void senses a threat here. They gather their forces to eliminate it." Lyra closed her eyes momentarily, accessing the neural network. "The dragons feel it too," she reported. "The void ships communicate among themselves. They fear what we've created." The queen moved closer to the window, her gaze fixed on the approaching armada. "Is there hope?" she asked softly. Daniel looked up from his work, meeting her eyes directly. "There is always hope, Your Majesty," he said, "but it will require more from us now. The device's eye, prepared in the temple below, must be activated at the heart of the void flagship." Olivia frowned. "How can we reach the flagship? The dragons are powerful, but they cannot breach the central vessel. Its defenses are too strong." Vex and 3 other transformed dragons broke away from the main attack, forming a protective circle around the tower. They hovered there, wings beating steadily, their new forms allowing them to maintain position with minimal effort. Daniel approached the queen, a plan forming in his mind. The flagship has a weakness, but exploiting it requires something they don't expect. Something they cannot counter. What could that be? Ariadne asked. "A willing sacrifice," Daniel said quietly. Lyra turned from the window, her face showing she understood, before the others. "The neural link," she said. "The person controlling it could guide a weapon directly to the heart of their ship." Daniel nodded, his eyes sad but determined. "The flagship contains what they call a dimensional anchor. It tethers their entire fleet to our reality. If we can destroy it," Lyra finished his thought, "the void would be forced back to their own dimension, cut off from our world." The queen looked between them, shock dawning on her face. "You speak of someone guiding this weapon. Personally," she said, "that would mean certain death." Daniel confirmed, his voice steady. "We would need a volunteer connected to the neural network, someone who could maintain the link even as the void tries to disrupt it." Commander Olivia stepped forward. "I volunteer," she declared without hesitation. "My life for Eldoria." Daniel shook his head regretfully. "It must be someone already connected to the network. The technology is too complex to integrate with a new user now. It would take days. We have minutes all." Eyes turned to Lyra, who stood calmly by the window. The neural connection devices glowed at her temples, linking her to the transformed dragons outside. She met her mother's gaze, her expression serene. "I always knew it might come to this," she said. Ariadne stepped toward her daughter. "No," she whispered. There must be another way. One of the devices on Daniel's panel suddenly flashed with warning lights. He checked the readings, his face growing pale. The Void Admiral has deployed their planet-killer weapon, he announced. It's a gravity cascade that will implode Eldoria's core. Commander Olivia gasped. How long do we have? Minutes at most, Daniel said. 10, perhaps 15 before it begins a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. He looked at Lyra, their eyes meeting in silent communication. The princess nodded once, then turned to her mother. We always knew this might be necessary, she said. Her voice was calm, despite the gravity of her words. I saw the possibilities when I first went to Earth with Daniel. The void cannot be defeated by half measures. Daniel reached into his pocket and withdrew a small device. It pulsed with energy, similar to the transformed dragons. Its scales. The central processing unit for the neural network, he explained. It can disrupt the dimensional anchor, but it must be placed directly within the flagship control center. Lyra approached him, her hand outstretched. I will take it. No, Ariadne, cried, moving between them. You cannot ask this of her human. You bring her to our world, show her wonders, then lead her to sacrifice. Daniel met the Queen's accusation with quiet dignity. I ask nothing, Your Majesty, he said. I would go myself if I could. But the neural link requires royal blood. The magic in her veins is what makes this possible. His voice broke slightly. Do you think I want this? I love her. Lyra placed a hand on her mother's shoulder. Mother, she said gently, this is my choice. My duty as princess. I cannot ask others to die while I remain safe. Outside the window, the battle intensified. The dragons fought valiantly against the void ships, but the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming. 2 of the transformed dragons had already fallen. Their merged forms not enough against the massed weapons of the armada. The palace trembled as void weapons struck its crystal towers. Commander Olivia steadied herself against a wall. My queen, she urged. We must decide. Queen Ariadne looked at her daughter, seeing not just the princess, but the leader she had become. The strength and wisdom in her eyes, the determination and courage in her stance. With sudden clarity, she understood that Lyra had grown beyond her teachings, beyond the ancient ways into something new. Just as the dragons had transformed, so had her daughter, who... Is he? Ariadne asked softly, looking toward Daniel. The human who had changed everything. The human who had given them hope even as he prepared to lose what he loved most. The princess smiled and said, The human I married, mother. The one who showed me that destiny isn't written in the stars, but in the choices we make. Lyra turned to Daniel, who stood with the device in his hand, tears in his eyes. It is time, my love, she said. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. He placed the device in her palm, then pulled, her close, kissing her with such tenderness that even Commander Olivia looked away. Her warrior heart moved. Outside, Vex roared, sensing his mistress's decision. The massive dragon moved closer to the tower window, his transformed eyes meeting Lyra's through the crystal. The neural link between them pulsed with shared purpose. Queen Ariadne watched as her daughter stepped away from Daniel toward the window where Vex waited. I will guide her, she declared suddenly. I will accompany her to the flagship. Daniel looked at the queen in surprise. Your Majesty, he began, but Ariadne raised her hand, stopping his protest. 8 centuries I have ruled, she said, 8 centuries of tradition and ancient ways. Perhaps it is time for me too to evolve, to see what lies beyond the stars with my daughter. Commander Olivia bowed deeply to her queen. We will continue the fight here, my queen, she promised. Until your return, or until the end. Lyra embraced her mother, tears in her eyes, then took the device from Daniel. Last time the palace trembled again more violently as the gravity cascade began its work deep within the planet time to fly. Lyra whispered. The princess and the stars. Vex hovered outside the crystal window, his transformed body glowing with merged magic and technology. Princess Lyra climbed onto the window ledge, the device from Daniel clutched tightly in her hand. Queen Ariadne followed, her daughter, her ancient eyes filled with determination. For the first time in 8 centuries, the queen removed her royal circlet, letting her silver hair flow freely in the wind. Daniel watched from the control panel, his heart torn between pride and despair. The neural link headset on Lyra's temples pulsed with energy, connecting her to Vex and through him to the other transformed dragons. "Be careful," he said, his voice barely audible above the sounds of battle outside. Lyra turned to him one last time, memorizing his face. "I will return," she promised, though they both knew the chances were slim. The planet trembled beneath them as the gravity cascade weapon began its deadly work. Deep fissures appeared in the streets of Lumina as the void technology attacked Eldorea's very core. Commander Olivia saluted the queen and princess, her warrior heart, recognizing the courage of their sacrifice. "For Eldoria," she said formally. "For all worlds," Queen Ariadne corrected her. 8 centuries of wisdom reflected in her eyes. She looked at Daniel, the human who had changed everything. "For the future." Vex moved closer to the window, extending his transformed wings. Lyra leapt first, landing smoothly on the dragon's back, her body immediately connecting more deeply through the neural link. Her mother followed with surprising grace for one so ancient. The transformed dragon adjusted to their weight, his new form stronger than before. Together they soared away from the tower, joining the other dragons. In the sky, Daniel rushed to the window, watching as his wife and her mother flew directly toward the massive Void flagship. The remaining transformed dragons formed a protective formation around them, clearing a path through the smaller enemy vessels. Daniel returned to his control panel, fingers flying across the instruments. The neural link allowed him to maintain contact with Lyra even at a distance. He could feel her determination, her focus, her love. He fed tactical data through the connection, highlighting weaknesses in the Void defenses, mapping the quickest route to the dimensional anchor commander. Olivia organized the remaining elven forces, directing them to support the dragon's approach. Elven archers fired special arrows designed by Daniel that disrupted the Void ship's sensory systems. Elven mages cast illusions not to attack but to confuse, drawing enemy fire away from the real target. The planet shook more violently now. Buildings collapsed in the city below as the gravity cascade intensified. Daniel checked the readings with growing alarm. "We have minutes at most," he told Olivia. "Perhaps less." The commander nodded grimly, gathering her elite guards. "We will defend this position to the last," she declared, allowing you to maintain the neural link. She positioned her warriors at every entrance to the tower room, their magical weapons gleaming, though all knew they would provide little defense against Void soldiers. Through the neural link, Daniel tracked Lyra's approach. The Void flagship loomed massive and terrible. Its hull seemed to devour light, creating a zone of darkness around it. Smaller ships swarmed like insects, protecting their queen. The transformed dragons fought valiantly, drawing enemy fire, allowing Vex to approach unseen. From below, Queen Ariadne held tightly to her daughter as Vex maneuvered through energy blasts and debris. 8 centuries of rule had not prepared her for this kind of battle, yet she found herself exhilarated by the direct action. The ancient magic in her blood responded to the neural link technology, strengthening the connection. They reached the underside of the flagship, where Daniel had identified a maintenance hatch. Vex extended claws, now enhanced with cutting technology, slicing through the outer hull. The metal parted, revealing a dark passage into the ship. "This is where we leave you," Lyra told Vex through the neural link. The dragon growled in protest, but she stroked his transformed scales. "You must return to the others. Lead them. If we fail," Queen Ariadne slipped from the dragon's back into the opening, her royal robes billowing around her. Lyra followed after a final pat to Vex, who reluctantly pulled away. Returning to the battle above, the mother and daughter found themselves in a dark corridor pulsing with the strange energy of Void technology. "Follow me," Lyra whispered the neural link, allowing her to sense the dimensional anchor at the heart of the ship. The device from Daniel hummed in her hand, responding to both her elven magic and the technology it contained. They moved quietly through the ship. The few Void soldiers they encountered seemed confused by their presence. Their sensors designed to detect pure magic failed to recognize the hybrid energy signature of the merged technology. The ship trembled around them as the transformed dragons continued their attack outside. The distraction worked perfectly, drawing void forces away from the central chamber. The planet below shook more violently now, the gravity cascade approaching critical levels. They reached a massive door covered in strange symbols. Queen Ariadne placed her hand against it, her ancient magic sensing the patterns. The door responded unexpectedly. Recognizing something in her royal blood, it slid open, revealing the control center of the flagship. Inside, void officers moved around a central pillar of swirling darkness. The dimensional anchor pulsed with malevolent energy, connecting the ship to their home dimension and anchoring their entire fleet to this reality. One void commander taller than the others noticed the intruders immediately, its form shifting like oil on water. Now Lyra cried, activating the device in her hand. It glowed with brilliant light, a combination of elven magic and human technology. The queen channeled her ancient power into her daughter, strengthening the neural link. The device expanded, floating from Lyra's palm. The technology Daniel had created merged with the queen's magic, creating something new, something the void had never encountered. The dimensional anchor fluctuated as the device approached it. Void officers rushed to stop them, but too late. Lyra guided the device directly into the anchor. The two energies collided in a blinding flash. The neural link, amplified by royal blood, allowed her to control the reaction, directing it precisely where Daniel had calculated would cause maximum disruption. The dimensional anchor destabilized. The ship began to shake violently around them. Void officers dissolved into mist as their connection to their home dimension severed. Queen Ariadne clutched her daughter as reality itself seemed to bend around them. Mother Lyra gasped as energy coursed through her body, changing her just as it had changed the dragons. The queen held her tightly, their royal blood mingling with the technology and magic, creating something impossible. The explosion lit the sky like a new sun, visible across the entire kingdom. The void flagship disintegrated in a sphere of brilliant light. For a moment, the elves watching from below believed their princess and queen lost. Then, as the light faded, a single figure on dragonback emerged from the flames. Vex roared in triumph as he descended toward the crystal palace. On his back sat Lyra, her form now flickering between physical and something more ethereal. Beside her, Queen Ariadne appeared, similarly transformed, their bodies glowing with internal light, their royal blood forever altered by the merger of magic and technology. The remaining void ships began to fade from reality, their connection to this dimension severed by the destruction of the anchor. Without the flagship to maintain their presence, they retreated back to their own realm. The gravity cascade weapon deactivated. The planet stabilized. Daniel rushed from the tower, racing down to the palace grounds, his heart pounding with hope and fear. The transformed dragon landed gently in the central courtyard. Lyra slid from his back, her feet barely touching the ground as she moved. Her body seemed to phase between solid and light. Her mother followed, looking younger somehow, as if centuries had fallen away. "Is it over?" Commander Olivia asked, approaching cautiously. Her warriors, surrounding the royal pair protectively, Queen Ariadne nodded. "It is over," she confirmed. "They are banished back to their dimension. The anchor that held them here is destroyed." Daniel pushed through the crowd, his eyes finding Lyra's. She smiled at him, her transformed state unable to hide the love shining through. "How?" he asked softly. Lyra reached for him, her hand solid enough to touch his, though it glowed with inner light. "The device," she explained, "it created a bridge between dimensions. But instead of being pulled into theirs, we pushed them back into it. The quantum interface merged with our royal blood, creating something new. Something beautiful," Daniel whispered. The queen studied her own transformed hands. "I feel the stars," she said. Wonderingly, "I feel the connections between worlds." As dawn broke over Eldoria, the human and his elven princess stood together, her dragon curled protectively around them, both three beings from different worlds, who had together written a new future among the stars. The end.